Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this could be my review for The Walking Dead Season 5, Episode 6, Consumed. And I was definitely very looking forward to this episode because of where this episode, what I knew was going to be about. Basically, this episode was about what happened to Daryl and Carol when they went in that car to find Beth. Basically, that's what happened. And if you remember in episode 2, Daryl and Carol went into that car, and we don't know what happened after that. Well, this episode answers that question. And it also gives us a lot of character development for Carol and Daryl. I will admit there were some parts in this episode that I thought were a little bit slow and could have been done a little bit better than they were. Like, there were some things in this episode that I wish were, it was a little slow in my opinion, but overall I did really enjoy this episode. I did not think it was as good as last week's, but I still really love this episode, and let's get to it, because I thought it was really good. And I love the way they start this episode. It actually starts with a flashback of episode 4 of season 4, when Rick kicked Carol out of the group and sent her on her own, basically. We never knew what happened to her, so we actually find out here what happened, because basically she's in the station wagon, she's parked on the side of the road, and she's crying hysterically. She's obviously very upset at what she did. Sorry, guys, moving this blanket right here. She's sobbing because she's obviously very upset about what happened, and a walker comes up and starts banging on the window. She screams at it to go away before driving off. She pulls in front of the Wayland Law Firm, LLP office building. She goes inside to look around. She rattles a can of pens to see if any walkers are inside. She gathers some empty water bottles from her recycling bin she used to store water, and later that night she goes to sleep with her pistol in her hand. During the day, she's at the window, setting a plastic bag to capture rainwater, where she spots smoke boiling up from the direction of the prison. So she gets in her station wagon, drives to the prison to see it in flames. So basically, what we can see is that she was there, and she saw the prison, get destroyed, basically. So I thought that was definitely very well done, and I really like the way they started the episode, because we see that basically she was planning on going back to the prison, but, it was destroyed. So we then cut to the present, and we see Daryl and Carol. They're following the car with the white cross on the window, and Carol is asking Daryl about his time with Beth after the prison. And Carol suggests they could end it quick by just running the car off the road, but Daryl says that the driver might refuse to talk, so they should continue to just follow, and Daryl says they have the advantage right now, and if Beth is being held, they will do what they have to do to get her back. So as the car enters the city, it comes to a stop, and Daryl steps behind it, and he wonders he wonders aloud to Carol why the car is waiting, because obviously the car is just waiting there, and he wants to know why it's waiting, obviously. So a police officer gets out of the passenger seat of the car, and Daryl says they are 2 of them. And a walker comes up and starts banging on the window of Daryl and Carol's car. So obviously that's not good. So the police officer is dragging bicycles and other stuff around. He looks back at Daryl and Carol's car. Then the police officer gets back in his car. And after the car in front of them leaves, Daryl tries to start their car, but the gas tank is now empty and it's not working. So their car is not working and everything. So basically, Daryl tells Carol that they have to find some place to hold up until sunrise, because obviously their car is not working. And Carol says she knows a place just a couple blocks away. And she rolls down the window and stabs the walker outside in the head. And they break into an office building to take shelter for the night. And they basically are planning on staying there and sleeping there. And basically, Daryl finds some keys on the body of a walker, which helps them unlock doors inside. And Daryl asks Carol if she used to work in the building or something, and Carol says something. This is the same building that Carol was hiding in when Rick, took her out of the group. So I was kind of wondering why we were seeing that at first, but then when we found out, I was like, okay, I like the way this episode is connecting. I thought that was really cool. However, this part was a little bit slow. I wasn't as into it as I wanted to be. The second half of this episode I was definitely more into, but I still thought this was well done. It wasn't like Slab Town, which was definitely kind of boring. This, I thought, was good, but there were just some parts here that were kind of boring. So Daryl's asking what the place is, and Carol says it's a temporary housing and everything, and Daryl asks if she came here, and Carol says that she did, but she didn't stay here. So they find a room with bunk beds, and Carol says that she will take the top bunk, and Carol also says that she will take first watch. So Daryl's sitting on the bottom bunk, and Carol asks, that they get, Daryl said before, they get to start over, and, she's asking Daryl if he did, and Daryl says that he's trying, and Daryl asks Carol what's really on her mind, and Carol says that she doesn't think that they get to save people anymore, which is kind of true if you think about it. They don't really get to. Basically now, it's kind of the question of not really trying to save people, because of course Carol killed Lizzie, and there was no hope in saving her, and I think that's kind of what Carol was alluding to. I think that's what she was kind of alluding to there, is that you can't really save people because you killed so many people before. So I thought that was kind of interesting what's going on. And basically, Daryl then asks why she is here, and Carol replies that she's trying, and Daryl asks what would happen if he hadn't showed up while Carol was out by the car. And Carol says she still doesn't know, and Carol lays down beside Daryl in the bottom bunk. And suddenly they hear a sound, and Daryl grabs his crossbow. They both go down a long hallway to see a couple child walkers clawing on the side of the glass door. Carol starts to go into the room with her knife, but Daryl tells her that she doesn't have to. Carol's waking up the next morning. She looks out the window to see smoke billowing outside. Daryl has built a fire. He's carrying the bodies of the child walkers in sheets and puts them into the fire, and Carol goes outside and thanks Daryl. So, in a flashback, I thought this was very interesting to see. Carol's digging up a grave. Tyrese is carrying the bodies of Lizzie and Mika, and Carol looks up to see smoke billowing up in the distance. And the thing I really like about this scene is that we didn't really see what happened after Carol and Tyrese had that conversation, so it was cool to see what happened after that, and I thought that was really well done. I really like the way The Walking Dead are showing these flashbacks. It makes the characters more interesting, it deepens the characters, it makes us care more about them, and I think they're definitely doing a very good job with that, in my opinion. Definitely something I'm really enjoying about this season, is the way they're doing those flashbacks. So, looking back, guys, this episode wasn't boring, honestly. I thought of, thinking about it, it was boring, but reading about it again, it actually was really good, actually. I'm gonna say that I think this was probably the third best episode of the season. I really enjoyed it. So, Daryl and Carol, they're packing up to go outside, and Daryl says they need to get in a tall building around for whoever has Beth, because they need to find whoever has Beth, and basically, if they go into a tall building, they might find out who it is. And they make their way outside and keep close to the building walls, and Daryl peers around a corner and sees several walkers in the roadway. He sees a bridge crossway linking two buildings, and he tells Carol that they can get up there. He takes the notepad out from his backpack, lights it on fire, he throws it to distract the walkers, and then Daryl and Carol run by the walkers. So they try to go across the bridge between buildings. They find several walkers in sleeping bags and tents, and Daryl shoots arrows into and stabs the sleeping bag walkers. They carefully make their way around the walkers trapped in tents, and Daryl and Carol crawl through an opening in a door that is chained up. They make their way into what looks like an executive's office, and she looks out the window at the burned and destroyed city below, and Carol says that Daryl still hasn't asked her what happened after she met up with Tyrese and the girls. And Daryl says that he actually knows what happened and that they ain't here. And I thought that was interesting that Daryl already knew, because Carol didn't tell him this. I thought it was interesting that he already knew. So basically what I'm thinking is that, somehow either Tyrese told him, or just for whatever reason, somehow he knew. I don't know how he knew, but for whatever reason, somehow he knew. And I don't know how, but he did. And he knew somehow. I don't know how, but he knew. So that's going to be interesting. I thought that was definitely a very interesting scene in my opinion. And I overall really enjoyed that. I thought that was interesting. So what ends up happening after that is they seem to notice something outside. And he looks through, basically he notices something outside, and he looks through the scope of Carol's rifle, and he shows Carol a van that is wrecked on the bridge, and it has two white crosses on the rear window. So he thinks it could be lead to whoever has Beth, and she starts wheeling up her canteen from a water cooler, and Daryl looks at a painting. And by the way, guys, the building they were in, and I thought this was kind of cool, the way they did this scene. The building they were in was actually the hospital. It looked like what was the hospital. It wasn't the hospital, but it was the same place that the hospital was in, because obviously Carol needs to get there to get to the, executive's office. She needs to get there to get to the hospital, so she, so we see how she gets to the hospital. So I like that they did that, because I really like the way they connected it. So basically, Daryl and Carol, they make their way through the small opening in the chain door, and Carol pushes the rifle through the doorway and goes outside first. And I love the way they connected this next scene. I thought this was amazing. Daryl gets outside, and we see Noah. Yes, Noah, who was the guy that Beth was friends with in Slabtown. We saw him there, and we actually see how he ended up in that hospital. So Noah's holding the rifle and has a drop on both of them, and Noah tells Daryl to lay down his crossbow, and Noah says that no one has to get hurt, that he just needs to use their weapons, and he tells them that they look tough and that they will be alright. He then cuts the tents open and lets the walkers out before he, basically, before he walks away, and that's what ends up happening there. So basically before he walks away, and Daryl stabs one of the walkers, and Carol puts a pistol and shoots one of the walkers. She points her gun at Noah's back, but Daryl pushes the gun away so she misses, and they chase after Noah, but he's gone. So we don't know where Noah went, but he's gone, and Carol's asking Daryl if he thought that she was going to kill him. And Carol says that she was aiming for his leg, and Daryl says that he was just a kid, and she points out that he got their weapons, and without weapons, they and Beth could die. So, obviously, that's very important that happened, and it makes sense that she's worried about that. So then we see another flashback scene, and I thought this was really, really cool what we saw here. Because we actually never saw this. We see that Carol is burning the bodies of Karen and David back at the prison, and I like the way that they remind us of this, because Carol has done really a lot. She really has done a lot of bad stuff, but it's been justified, there have been justified reasons as to why she did it. We know why she did that. We know why she killed Karen and David. We know why she did that. We got the justified reason for that. But I thought it was well done, because it just makes us it reminds us how many things Carol has done, how many things that she feels bad about, and I definitely really like that. So, back in the present, Daryl and Carol, they make their way to the van of the bridge, and the van is halfway off the edge of the bridge, and Carol points out that it's not stable. So they're searching for the van, and a horde of walkers approach them. I'm not kidding, like a horde of walkers. And so Daryl notices hospital supplies in the van, and Carol says Grady Memorial Hospital is nearby. So the walkers reach for the van, and Daryl stabs some of the walkers, and Carol uses her last 2 bullets. However, they are overrun by the walkers and have to climb back into the van to escape. So they climb into the front of the van, and Daryl tells Carol to buckle up, and as the walkers push the van off the bridge, the van leads right side up, and Daryl and Carol, and this was an awesome effect. I mean, it got like slow motion and everything. I'm like, please don't have anything bad happen to them. And like, I was like, is this how Carol's gonna get injured? Is this what's gonna happen to her? And no, they're basically okay. So I thought that was really cool the way that was done. Literally, the van, like, falls off a cliff, and it just goes boom, like that. Like, it just turned over, and I thought that was really cool the way that was done. It was a really cool special effects, and Walking Dead always has had some of the best special effects on TV, and that was really, really badass. So, a couple of walkers fall off the bridge onto the van, and Daryl and Carol make their way out of the van and take off on foot. And Daryl and Carol are stopped outside a building to rest, and Daryl gives Carol some water to drink. And Carol's shoulder is injured, but she says that she's had worse, and she jokes that they made good time getting down. And she says they're only 3 blocks from Grady. So they enter a building, and Daryl finds a machete, which he used to stab a walker on the floor. They look across a hospital, and Daryl asks Carol how he was before. And Carol says that he was a kid, but now he's a man. And Daryl asks, what about her? And Carol says that she and Sophia stayed at the shelter for a day and a half, but then she went back running to Ed. And she said that she got beat up, but she didn't do anything. So she says that who she was with him got burned away. So I thought that was really done, because as we know, Carol did have a daughter who, turned into a walker and was killed. But now that part of her, she's gone away. And apparently, I didn't see Walking Dead in the first few seasons, but apparently Carol was a very annoying character. Like, she was just full of remorse. She wouldn't get over things. But now she's such a different type of character, where she will kill someone if she has to, and I definitely really enjoyed that, what she says. Because she says that at the prison, she got to be who she always thought she should have been. But then she got burned away, and she says that everything now consumes you, and I love Daryl's line. He says, we are not ashes. I love that line. I think that's an amazing line. I love that. So, Daryl hears something and they both go and investigate, and it's a walker that's stuck to a wall by an arrow, and Carol asks Daryl if it's one of his arrows, and Daryl says yes, and they hear gunfire, and they walk around the corner of the hall to see Noah struggling with a walker. So Noah breaks free, and the walker attacks Carol, but Daryl kills it, and Daryl chases after Noah, and he doesn't really know if he can trust Noah, because obviously Noah wanted their weapons and everything. So his mind says, basically, I'm just going to kill him. I don't plan on saving this guy. I'm just going to kill him, basically, because I don't know what he is. I don't know anything about him, and I think that was a good mindset that Daryl had there. I like what he was trying to get at. So he finds him trying to move a bookshelf that's blocking a door, and he pushes Noah into the bookshelf, but it falls back on Noah, pinning him beneath, and there's a walker struggling to get through a door that was behind the bookshelf. So Carol catches up, and Daryl and Carol take back their weapons, and Noah's asking why they followed him, and he's begging for help. He really wants them to help him, but Daryl says he already helped him once, and it's not happening again. And he finds a carton of cigarettes and lights a smoke, and Carol yells at Daryl to help Noah, and I like that she, wanted him to help Noah, because the thing is, he is a guy who is very innocent. He's not going to hurt them, and I understand why Carol wants him to help Noah. I was surprised that Carol did, because, it seemed like she would kill anyone, but no, she only kills people if she has a reason to. So Daryl says to let him be and walks away. The walker pushes through a door, is about to get Noah, but Daryl turns around and shoots the walker with an arrow at the last second. So that's basically, we knew it was going to happen because Noah's still alive when we get to Beth in the hospital, so, and we know, pretty much this is before, so. We then see another flashback, and I like this. Carol's in the woods after her attack on Terminus. She falls to her knees and starts to wipe off all of the walker blood and guts she smeared on herself to get past the walkers and get inside. She picks up her weapons and starts to walk while the smoke from Terminus billows in the background. And I like the pattern here. It was all smoke billowing in the background. I thought it was well done, but this flashback kind of seemed unnecessary. I didn't really care about it that much. In my opinion, I just thought this flashback was okay. We didn't really need to see it. I understand the pattern they were trying to get at, but the other flashbacks seemed much more necessary than this was, and this flashback just seemed kind of unnecessary. It wasn't a bad flashback by any means. I thought it was a very well done flashback. I'm just saying it was a little bit unnecessary compared to the other flashbacks we saw. I wasn't as big as a fan of these. So Daryl and Carol, they pull the bookshelves off of Noah, and Noah goes to the window, and he warns them that they will come now, because the people at the hospital probably heard the shot, and Daryl asks him if he saw a blonde girl at the hospital, and Noah says, Beth. So we do find out that, yes, this is actually after Noah has met Beth. So Noah explains that Beth helped him get away, but that she is still there. And Daryl, Carol, and Noah, they take off running to try to escape before the people from the hospital get there. And Noah falls down, and Daryl tries to help him up, because basically now they're going to try to find Beth. And Carol runs out the door first. However, she then gets hit by a station wagon. He's about to go out to rescue Carol, but Noah says that they can help her, that they have medicine, machines, and a doctor. And Noah says that if Daryl goes out there, he has to kill them, and then Carol wouldn't be able to get their help. And that kind of makes sense, but wasn't Noah kind of against the hospital? So I don't really understand what Noah's trying to get out here, because the hospital is not a good place, as we know. The hospital is a very mean-spirited place. They're not good people. We know that there's that lady there, who I can't remember her name right now, but we know that she's there. She thinks that people are coming to save them, and there's not. So, I understand I don't really understand what Noah's trying to say here. So Daryl asks Noah what it's going to take to get Carol and Beth back, and Noah says a lot because they have guns and people, and Daryl says so do we. And Daryl and Noah escape through a fence, and they find a truck to drive away, and then Daryl and Noah are driving in the truck as the episode ends. So basically, the way this ended was they are going to find Carol, and they're going to get her back, and now we know how Carol, basically, we know what happened to her, because now we know that Carol was not captured, she was just injured, and now she's going to the hospital. However, these people at the hospital, we know, are not going to take care of her. They're not going to do the right thing to her. There's clearly something going on there. We still don't know everything that's going on in that hospital, which I actually do like that we don't know everything that's going on. We don't know really a lot of what's going on there, and I am looking forward to seeing definitely what's going on. However, once again, we have to wait a week, because next week, we actually go back to our main storyline with the other group, which I think I'm looking forward to, definitely. I will say this about The Walking Dead. They need to stop with these individual group episodes. I don't understand why they can't do a subplot. I don't understand why they can't do that. It's like the show's afraid of doing that. Now, this episode was really good, definitely. It was not as bad as, like, the one with Daryl and Beth last year, which looking back, was a very bad episode. The thing about this episode that I like was that the conversations were interesting enough to keep you invested into the episode. This was an episode that made you be like, I don't want to, I'm not interested in this, I wish I would have watched Homeland Live. No, that wasn't what this was about. I do wish I would have watched Homeland Live, because I know what happened. I know that Homeland was amazing this week, which, by the way, guys, it will be my next review, but, you know, this episode was interesting enough to keep you invested, and I like that about this episode. It was, you know, it had enough in there. There wasn't anything where I was like, oh, that shouldn't have been in there. I'm not really into this scene. I wish there could have been more there. But no, I was into this enough to be invested, and I like that about this episode. But I do want to get back to the original storyline. I did like that we had all these characters together as a group, and now they've kind of separated. So I'm not exactly happy about that, but I do like that they are making it interesting, and I do like that. So let me know what you guys think of this episode. What is going on with Carol? Clearly, Noah and Daryl, they're going to go rescue her, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen there. That's going to be cool to watch. What's going to happen with, you know, them rescuing her? Are Rick and the others going to find out in the next episode where they are? Are they going to find out what happened to Abraham and everything? I'm really wondering where we're getting at, because we have one episode left to the mid-season finale, and I'm kind of trying to figure out where we actually are going with this, because Rick's group doesn't really have much of a threat right now, and I don't really know where we're gonna go with them. So my question is, where are we really going here? Because I don't really know. I mean, there are a couple things going on. You know, the thing with Abraham's group, the thing with their group, but the main group doesn't really seem to have much of a storyline right now except what's going on with Gabriel, and that really seems to be everything that's going on. So I don't really know where we're heading, but I guess we'll just have to see. But that's basically my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Also, guys, my only other complaint of this episode, a few of the flashbacks felt a little bit unnecessary, especially the one at Terminus. We already know what happened. We didn't really need to see that. I understand what they were trying to do. They were trying to show the past things that Carol had done that she kind of regrets doing. And I understand that, but I like this episode of Humanize Carol, but I did feel that some scenes were a little bit slow, and I would like them to get back to the original group, because I don't really know what direction we're heading in. But I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for tonight's episode of Homeland, so I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.